Hello, this is Jody Beck from Jody's Gems Quilting. Once again, I am going to share today how I created the zipper system on my short arm frame system. As you can see, I have this included in another video, but I didn't show how to do it. Normally, I have leaders that I created years ago that I would pin onto my leaders on the frame system. And these were already part of the system, and they get velcroed on. So that I've had done for years, at least over 10 years. And I would pin everything on, and it would just frustrate me because it just took too long. So I came up with the long arms all have zipper systems that they have available, and I thought, well, if they can do it, why can't I? And I just didn't want to invest in that when my machine, I wasn't even sure if it was going to be working that well. So anyway, the best part is that I figured it out, and you can too. What you need are 3 sleeping bag zippers. And the sleeping bag zippers, the nice part about it is that they separate. So they're separating zippers. Now my girlfriend, one of my best friends in Phoenix, she was telling me, as I was telling her the other day, that she just makes zippers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so talented. I've never figured out how to do that, and it's probably not that hard. But you can make your own zippers, you can do whatever, and mine are actually longer because my leaders, when I put this together, I only created it, I didn't put the leaders all the way to the end. This was designed so it would be the shorter version. I can shrink this down. Of course, I never use it that way, but the leaders are just what they've been for the last 10 years. Plus, so what you're going to do is I take the leaders, and I picked my favorite color, which is red. So pick your favorite color fabric, and I recommend a stronger fabric, not a real thin, flimsy cotton, but something like this is a Kona cotton, and a Kona has a really good weave to it, so it works well. I always had the 4 sides all serged. Oh, don't you love my nails? Sorry, they're horrible, but my daughter is going to beauty school, and she needed to practice, so I let her practice on me. And if I waited till I got redone, I'd never get this video done. So what I did was I took one of the sides and I stitched half the zipper on, and stitched it on the other side of my leader that came with the system. And I also, when I put this on here, you'll see that I stitched it down once, then I folded it over and I stitched it a couple more times. I hope you can see that. And what this does is it stabilizes it, keeps the zipper out of the way so that it works much, much better. On the red piece, the leader, I did the same thing. I stitched it on, and then I stitched it again. Where did I stitch it again? I didn't. All I did was stitched it on once, and it stays out of the way. But you do that on all 3 of your leaders. You make them for all 3, and then you just stitch them on and check them before you sew something on. And you just zip them on to your frame system. Typically you would have your quilt attached to this, and I'm going to show you what I do with that. And it may have to be another video that I actually show you, but I just zip it on and it's ready to go. This is so much faster and simpler than pinning everything on. And I don't pin these on. Even in the past, I always stitched them on using the edge of my regular foot on my machine. And this one is where I load my backing. So I have them labeled so I know what I'm doing. This is backing wrong side up, load first. So I know it's on this roller. This one is for the quilt top, and I have it marked on here, and I forgot to take account for the seam allowance, so it's okay. But this is quilt top, and then this is the red leader backing, or the edge of it, the red leader edge that I add to the top on each side. And I always set it up to start from this side and put it on. When I get done with loading those 2, then I pull the backing through so that it can be loaded on the front roller right here. And this one I have marked also backing wrong side up, last on. So this would be the last one that gets attached. And what I usually do is I take, and I had a bunch of these because I would just keep adding them to quilts so they were ready to load even though I was pinning them. So I take these and I have 40 inch, 60 inch, and 80 inch leaders that I created. These are all 80 inch leaders. I had 2 of them and then I pieced the third one because I didn't want to go get more. I had plenty of the others, so I just pieced one and used the others at 80. So I used 80, but you could do 100 and something just by the yardage, and if you use the length of the grain, lengthwise grain, it won't stretch, so that works good too. So once you have all your zippers in place on all 3 rollers, then you're ready to load your first quilt and sew them, and I basted them to the quilt. So what you're going to do is take your quilt top. This is my newest test sample. This will be the first time, if I get this quilted tomorrow, that will be the first time I've ever made a quilt front to back within a week, which is amazing. So what I do is I typically take this, and I think this is a couple inches shorter or longer than 40 inches, but I sew this. I pin it in place, so it's just like adding a border. So I pin it in place, make sure it doesn't stretch, and I'm going to load this one sideways, so the top of the quilt is down on this end and the bottom is down here. Because it's a short arm, you don't want to roll it as much as possible. You try to avoid rolling it, and so this goes much better to do lengthwise. And what you're going to do is, I like to keep this end straight, the last one on of the quilt top, and I'm going to pin, 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 and then machine base this leader on this end. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. My leader's down here somewhere. And if there's extra, I leave it at the top. So when I get done, and I have this all loaded on here, and it's all machine basted on. I stay stitched the edges of this one too so that it wouldn't pull apart. I might be okay with that. I'm going to be short a couple inches up here. I'll leave it at the top. If I have extra, which I just took a quilt off that had extra on it, or I use a 60 inch one, then when I'm done and I load this and it's out here like this, I just fold it back so it's not tucked into the roller next to me, not attached or anything. And then this gets set on top when the backing is on, the batting and everything. So I do those 2 on the ends, and I do this one, the leader with the zipper, I do on the bottom of the quilt if I'm loading it top in, or I do it on the left side if I'm loading it side to side. I have found that my quilts are so square, it's unbelievable by doing this. And what you can see is this says red leader, so that would have the red leader attached. And I'll put the seam right there where my marking is for the quilt top. And I'll pin all the way down and machine baste this in place so it's ready to go. Make sure your quilts are always pressed, ready to go, and I'll fold them over. I've really gotten attached to these wooden hangers. I don't know, I found them out in Amish country somewhere. I had a bunch and then I found more and dug them out and brought them, and then I just hang my quilts on there, and I love this. They don't bow, they just stay nice and even, and they don't put a little, fold line in it. So anyway, so I would fold this up and set it aside until I'm ready to quilt it. I'm going to mess this up because it's only going to be messed up for a few minutes because I'm going to go load that. Then I take the backing, and in this case I had to piece the backing, which is so pretty. It's a panel. This is eventually a quilt going to be donated. And I only left these little notes on here for me so I don't forget. As you'll see on here, I don't know if you can tell, this left one side has a wider border than the top. And it's because when I load it, I leave very little on the top. There's very little backing and batting used on the top of the quilt when I load it in, and I put the quilt top down, if I centered it, it doesn't work. I forget, and then I just load it in there, and then it's off center. So I either make it off center, or this is my first time I'm going to try and guess where this is going to land, and hopefully it will work. So what I'm going to do now is take the leader off of the frame system, and it says backing. Sorry about that. I don't have anybody here to help me today. Wrong side up, so the wrong side of the quilt backing is up. I'm going to pin it all the way down, and I'm going to machine base this onto the red leader that will be zipped on later. I'm going to go upstairs as soon as I'm done with this. I'm going to do the same with this one, and it will tell me right here. I've marked them both about a foot in, and I leave room at the top end because I like to be able to pull my machine out and change a bobbin without having to go to the other end. And I don't know if this would work for a long arm, but I imagine it would. Someday I hope to find out. Until then, I'll just keep renting long arms. And most of them come with zipper systems now anyway. So I would machine base that one on. Then when I go to load the quilt, you load it like you normally would. So this one gets loaded first, and I just zip the zipper on, and then I start rolling up. Now it's going to tighten on me, which it normally does. So you would roll this one up, keeping it even and tight, just like you normally would. Roll the whole thing up onto that roller. Then you take the quilt top and you would zip it into place. Just zip it right onto the roller, and you would roll it up the opposite direction so it's laying flat. And again, my screws have tightened on me. So anyway, you're going to do that, and it will get rolled up, rolled up, rolled up. Keep it even all the way till it's totally. And I have found, let me see if I can do this. You have probably, if you have one of these, you've probably already figured this out. But I have found if I throw it over, when I go to load this, come on, baby. It wants to stick to everything. Okay. Sorry, I don't usually wear red flannel either. I'm like, my camera keeps drooping. Red flannel's not my thing, but it's a little, was chilly this morning. We had fog. But for the end of February, I can't complain. So what I do is as I roll it, I keep it taut across the rolls. And it seems to give enough friction that it helps to keep it taut as I'm rolling it. And it keeps it even. I can keep it smoothed out and even. And then when it's all rolled up, then I go to the next one and it does the same thing. Once you have it rolled up, this is on here. The top is on the middle bar. And your system might be a little different. I know I've had, when I did the long arm, you have to go through certification for each machine, and it's all different, and they roll it different. And I rented one time, and it took me a while. Didn't make any sense to me the way it was loaded. I'm still not convinced it was loaded correctly, but that's the way they taught me to do it, and said we had to do it that way. Oh, my pussycat. Anyway, what you're going to do is on the red leader on here, you zip it on, okay? And this one I actually remove. If it doesn't lay smooth through here and nice and drape evenly, then I take it off the Velcro, unvelcro it, and put it back into position and move it so that it works fabulous. Oh my gosh. For a while I was pinning this last one on or using some other methods, and it was not as good. So this way the Velcro, I just unvelcro it, make sure it's even, and then I put it back on. Like I said, I have amazing square quilts now. I am thrilled to death. So anyway, I hope this helps you with adding and using your own sleeping bag zippers, or buying them, or making your own zippers to put it together, and making this so much easier for you. If you are looking for sleeping bag zippers and having a hard time finding them, I found them at Wooden Bridge Dry Goods in Kutztown, PA. They do not have a website. It's on a Mennonite farm, but they will be happy to ship them to you. So If you want to, you can get a hold of them. I usually teach for them, so you can check my website for the phone number under my classes. You can probably Google them and get the information that way. I have the number almost memorized, but it's not quite there, so I don't want to give it to you. Anyway, I hope that this helps you, and I hope you have fun quilting. Have a great day. God's blessings to you. Bye.